Who is UK Sport, and what's the Sports Council, and how is it different to esports? All that and more in this video. So, in this short video, what are we going to look at? We're going to look at who UK Sport are, we're going to look at the roles of sports councils, we're going to look at the difference between those two, and then finally we're going to look at the difference of that with esports to help you get those merits or distinctions that you're looking for. So who are UK Sport then? So UK Sport are the top level of all sport in the UK. They are run as a government body. So they are not a private limited company. They are directly under the DCMS. And essentially what they do is they provide funding to all sports national governing bodies that fall under Olympic and Paralympic competition. More than 60. Okay, so there's quite a lot. And they also own what you may have heard before as the English Institute of Sport, which is basically a very high-level organisation within UK Sport that runs high-level services to do with coaching, to do with medicine, and other things related to running sports teams and getting peak performance from athletes. Their mission is there at the bottom right of the slide. You can see their primary role is to strategically invest their income from two different sources, the National Lottery and the government, to help get the performance of UK athletes to the highest level possible. So they are there to give money to sport, to make sure the athletes are having a good time, that they're getting the services they need, and also to ensure that all Olympic sports are funded appropriately. Okay, so what's a sports council then? So in the UK, we have the four main countries. We have Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland and England, and each of them has their own sports council. Again, these are a government body, so they are under the DCMS. They are a public asset that helps to provide funding and opportunities to sports endeavours through applications. So in other words, they help the grassroots scene, and you can apply for grants from these councils to help fund your sports project at the grassroots. They push for the inclusion of all in sport. So essentially their mission is to help encourage participation at the bottom level in young people and the next generation of upcoming athletes, but also to keep other people active too. But they're there as sort of the body that is trying to get these next generation of gold medal winners, to help get young people involved in sport and to help develop that grassroots scene. So if we look at a quick comparison of difference between these two, we can see that the UK Sport is for the Olympic level, the councils are for the grassroots level. UK Sports funding is directly put into the Olympic and Paralympic national governing bodies, so you've got the Football Association, Lawn Tennis Association, Basketball, etc., all the way through to bobsled. And we've got the sports councils, which are for the grassroots stuff only, awarding grants. They are funded identically though, as you can see highlighted in green. One important thing to remember though, is that UK Sport will represent the whole of the UK internationally. So when we have things like Olympics and Team GB, as you can see in the other video this week, card at the top, it's that the sports councils aren't really for Olympic participation. The sports councils will have Commonwealth teams delegated to them, but they don't really have anything to do with the Olympics at all. Finally, we talked about the English Institute of Sport earlier. It's there to support the top level. UK Sport uses it all the time. It's one of their own sort of sub-companies within UK Sport. The sports councils will not have anything to do with that at all. They're not interested in it. It doesn't help them with their mission. And to finish off, if we then take that a bit further and compare it to esports, we don't have UK esports. We have the British Esports Federation, but they're not a national governing body. They're not a sub-department under the government. So we don't have this sort of representation at this level because esports is not recognised. So we don't have a national governing body. We don't get funded the same through the DCMS. We get funded indirectly through projects maybe with the UKE or through the National Lottery. There is a resource at the end for the National Lottery part. Esports Wales got an award from the National Lottery recently. And with the esports councils or the esports federation that we've got, the UK representation for them isn't as straightforward. So we've obviously got we've talked about Olympics this week. Again, video at the end. And we've talked about Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, etc. having their own esports companies or bodies. And so British esports and other companies that fall within it are much more like the sports councils and a lot less like UK sport. That's something very important to consider if you wanted to be a merit or distinction student, and think about why that is. Finally, esports has the National Performance Campus being built at the moment in Sunderland, which it's not funded and it's not as big as the English Institute of Sport, but it's a step in the right direction. We've got a localized area being developed for the development of the next generation or the current generation of esports talent. So there are some parallels between the two. Some. But there are much more differences. And as we've gone through these videos in recent weeks, hopefully you can start to see why that is. Not only at the cultural level, but also from just a funding level and also from a participation level. Sort of what expectations sports has set over the last 100 years or so compared to esports, which is really young. So we've got a clear difference between the two camps. So this slide's just there to articulate what we were saying before. So British Esports and Sport England, very, very similar. Look at all the rows highlighted in green. The only main difference is that because of the way funding works, it's very difficult for British Esports to give funding to things. They don't have that nice little sort of bank of cash from the government to award out on grants. Even though British Esports is a registered charity and they do try to help with things and they can get National Lottery funding, they don't award funds in the same way. They sort of just work on their own projects. So Sport England will give money to projects. British Esports run their own projects, funded completely differently. But one nice little thing to finish on is that when the Commonwealth is concerned in the Commonwealth Games, British Esports and its subsidiaries and Sport England will both choose the teams. So again, some differences, a lot of similarities. British Esports is way more similar to Sport England than it is to UK sport. And so that is where we will finish for today. So, summarise, esports doesn't have UK sport for Olympic competition. Esports companies that we have in the UK, like the British Esports Federation, are much more like Sport England and Scotland, etc. And we're already aware from previous videos that the funding is not the same, and so the funding channels are very different, and the way that money is awarded and the amount of money available is also vastly different. Again, as I said, there's a link there to the Esports Wales recent award from the National Lottery Fund. That will be put in the description if you want to read that. And as always, here's the references for this week. And again, I want to thank you for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you found it interesting. Give us a like if you thought the video was useful. Give us a dislike and tell us why if you didn't. And then that will be it for this week. So I've been Van Adam, this is V Esports. See you later.